It's just a matter of moving from one place to another. After walking for a few hours, he found a flat area in the forest and immediately took out the shovel from his backpack to start digging a pit. Since the temperature difference between day and night in this forest is quite large, he decided to build a sunken shelter, which would not only retain indoor heat effectively, but also allow the shelter to blend into the surrounding environment by being partially underground. After spending about 3 more hours, the once flat ground was now dug into a square pit. He then began preparing the necessary logs. After peeling the bark off the logs, he used his shadow matchet to clear off the extra branches, ensuring the surface was smooth and even. He then cut the logs into uniform lengths and scraped the surfaces. He drove wooden stakes into the ground to serve as supports for the logs. By placing the logs in the middle of the stakes and drilling holes with a hand drill, he could firmly drive in wooden pegs to secure the logs together as upright columns, and filled the gaps with earth to compact it. He already had a clear vision in mind for constructing the walls. He sawed the ends of the logs into triangular shapes, aligning them with the grooves at the center of the columns. To make it more secure, he also crafted a wooden hammer. With rhythmic strikes, the logs locked tightly with the columns, and with each layer of logs added, he covered it with moss, a commonly used ceiling material in wilderness shelters. This helped ensure the shelter's walls were airtight once complete. As he continued his work, one side of the wall was quickly built. Then, it came time for the details. Since one side needed to be reserved for the fireplace, he first used shorter logs to build the lower part of the wall. Once enough space for the fireplace was left, he continued with the regular-sized logs for the upper part. He paid meticulous attention to each log, first using a handsaw to make preliminary cuts. And after connecting the top to the bottom, he created a perfect passage for the smoke. He then went nearby to collect some quality stones, which he brought back to the shelter to modify the fireplace. Inside the smoke chamber, he carefully stacked the stones upwards, and as he reached the top, he narrowed the chimney, backfilling the surrounding area with earth. Finally, he placed a stone slab on top to prevent rain from extinguishing the fire inside. After finishing these tasks, he went to a naturally dead tree nearby, used a handsaw to trim its irregular end, and flattened any bumps with his axe. This wooden board would serve as the shelter's door. The chopped wood chips were perfect for fire starting, as they were dry and easy to ignite. He continued building the last wall. Since he needed to reserve space for the door, he used the shovel to dig out a passage, making it easier for him to enter and exit. He placed a log to form the threshold and quickly made a door frame. Then he began building the final wall. With the experience gained from the previous walls, his movements became much faster. Halfway through building the wall, he considered the lighting and ventilation inside. He sawed grooves, making it easier to create the necessary holes with the axe. He treated another log in the same way. And when the grooves of the two logs met, they formed a window of the perfect size. And the final log was securely fastened. The shelter was about 80% complete. He carved circular wooden pegs into the board to make a door handle, and also crafted a handmade doorknob. He then drilled the necessary holes in the threshold, and with the wooden pegs in place, the door was now fully functional. Next came the roof. He drilled holes in the logs and fixed them with wooden pegs. One by one, the logs were placed to seal the roof. When the last log was firmly fixed, the roof was complete. Since he planned to cover the roof with dry leaves, he built a barrier around the roof to prevent the leaves from falling off. To ensure it was fully sealed, he used clay for secondary processing, and once the clay dried, it would fit perfectly. After the clay dried, he placed dry leaves on top for insulation. Finally, he used the earth from the pit to flatten and compact the ground around the shelter. To blend the shelter into the surroundings, he gathered some greenery for camouflage. As the saying goes, if you want a good life, the roof must have some green. As a skilled wilderness survival expert, he gathered some plants from the area and planted them on the bare ground to blend it with the forest environment. He then went inside and added some firewood to the fireplace to warm up the interior. To build a single bed, he placed 5 logs in a row to form a comfortable bed. To make it more comfortable, he added a layer of pine needles. Finally, he assembled a small dining table, placed a bedspread, and arranged the pillows. The entire shelter was now fully complete. As nightfall arrived, he lit 2 camping lamps and hung them by the door. Only then could he relax and begin preparing his dinner. He seasoned some skewered meat with a special blend of spices and placed them on the fire to cook slowly. Half an hour later, the delicious roasted meat was ready. After a satisfying meal, he peacefully drifted into sleep.